Welcome back to English Practice with Monica. I'm Monica, and I'm so happy you're here today. Today's episode is different from anything we've talked about before. Today, we're not going to focus on grammar. We're not going to memorize vocabulary. And we're not going to practice pronunciation. Instead, we're going to talk about something much more important. We're going to talk about your brain. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to learn English so quickly? Why do they remember new words so easily? Why do they speak with confidence after only a few months? And why do others study for years but still struggle to communicate? Is it talent? Is it intelligence? Is it age? The answer may surprise you. According to science, your brain is far more important than the method you choose. When you understand how your brain learns, everything changes. You stop studying harder, and you start studying smarter. So, wherever you are right now, maybe you're driving to work, maybe you're taking a walk, maybe you're relaxing at home, or maybe you're studying with a notebook beside you. I want you to listen carefully because today's episode could completely change the way you learn English. Your brain is designed to learn. Let's begin with an amazing fact. Your brain contains around 86 billion neurons. These tiny cells are constantly communicating with one another. Every thought you have, every memory you keep, every new word you learn begins with those incredible connections. Scientists call this neuroplasticity. It simply means that your brain can change, it can adapt, it can grow, and it can continue learning throughout your entire life. That's wonderful news for every English learner, because it means you're never too old to improve. Your brain doesn't stop learning when you become an adult. It simply learns differently. Every time you hear English, your brain pays attention. Every time you read a sentence, your brain searches for patterns. Every time you listen to a conversation, your brain compares new information with what it already knows. Little by little, day after day, those connections become stronger. That's exactly how fluency begins. Learning is about patterns. Here's something many people don't know. Your brain loves patterns. It looks for them everywhere, in music, in faces, in numbers, and especially in language. Think about your favorite song. The first time you heard it, you probably didn't remember every word. But after listening several times, you started recognizing the lyrics. Eventually, you could sing along without even thinking. That's because your brain found the pattern. Learning English works exactly the same way. The more you hear common words and expressions, the more familiar they become. One day, you don't have to think about them anymore. You simply understand them. That's why listening is one of the most powerful learning tools you have. Every podcast, every conversation, every story gives your brain another opportunity to recognize patterns. Why memorizing isn't enough. Many learners believe they need to memorize thousands of vocabulary words, but that's not how the brain learns best. Imagine trying to remember 100 random words. It would be difficult. Now imagine reading those same words inside an interesting story. Suddenly, everything becomes easier because stories create meaning. Meaning creates memories. and memories last much longer than isolated information. That's why context is so important. Your brain doesn't just remember words. It remembers experiences, emotions, and situations. The more meaningful your practice becomes, the stronger your memory becomes. That's one reason why listening to podcasts is so effective. You're not simply studying English. You're experiencing English. You're following ideas. You're making connections. And your brain loves making connections. Here's the first secret. Fluent learners don't try to remember everything. They focus on understanding. They listen again and again. They notice patterns. They repeat useful expressions, and they trust the learning process. They know that every minute of exposure makes a difference, even if they don't understand every word. Because every time they listen, their brain becomes a little stronger, a little faster, and a little more confident. So don't worry if learning sometimes feels slow. Your brain is working behind the scenes. It's building new connections every single day. And sooner than you think, those small connections will become real fluency. How memory really works. Now let's explore another fascinating question. Why do we forget new English words so quickly? Almost every English learner has experienced this. You learn a new word today. You understand it perfectly. You even use it once or twice. Then, a few days later, it's gone. You try to remember it. You know you've seen it before. It feels familiar, but you just can't recall it. Does that mean you have a bad memory? Absolutely not. In fact, your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Every single day, your brain receives an enormous amount of information. Thousands of sounds, thousands of images, and thousands of thoughts. If your brain tried to remember every single detail, it would quickly become overloaded. So instead, your brain makes decisions. It decides what is important, and it decides what can safely be forgotten. But here's the interesting part. Your brain doesn't know what's important until you show it. Every time you review a word, every time you hear it in a conversation, and every time you read it in a story, your brain receives the same message. This information matters. Keep it. That's how long-term memories are created. The power of repetition. Some people think repetition is boring. Your brain completely disagrees. Repetition is one of the most powerful learning tools you have. Think about your favorite song. You probably didn't memorize it by reading the lyrics once. You heard it again and again and again. Without even trying, the words became part of your memory. English works the same way. Every time you hear a useful expression, your brain strengthens the neural pathway connected to it. At first, that pathway is very weak. It feels unfamiliar. It takes effort. But after enough repetition, the pathway becomes stronger, faster, and more automatic. That's why fluent speakers don't spend time searching for every word. Their brains have already built those strong pathways. The good news is, your brain can build them too, one repetition at a time. Why context changes everything. Here's another secret your brain wants you to know. Words are easier to remember when they have meaning. Imagine someone gives you 20 random vocabulary words. You might remember a few, but most of them will disappear after a short time. Now imagine those same words inside an interesting story. Suddenly, everything changes. The words are connected. They have purpose. They create images in your mind. And your brain loves images. It remembers pictures much more easily than isolated facts. That's why stories are so powerful. That's why conversations are so effective. And that's why listening to podcasts can transform your learning. You're not memorizing disconnected information. You're following ideas. You're understanding emotions. You're connecting one sentence to another. That's exactly how your brain prefers to learn. Why mistakes help you grow. Now let's talk about something that almost every learner fears: making mistakes. Many people stay quiet because they're afraid of saying the wrong word. They worry about grammar. They worry about pronunciation. They worry about what other people might think. But here's something important to remember. Your brain learns through feedback. Every mistake teaches it something new. Imagine learning to play the piano. Would you expect to play perfectly on your first day? Of course not. Every incorrect note teaches your fingers where to move next time. Speaking English works exactly the same way. Every conversation gives your brain new information. Every correction makes you stronger. Every challenge builds confidence. Mistakes are not signs of failure. They're signs of progress. They prove that you're learning. They prove that you're trying. And every speaker you admire made thousands of mistakes before becoming confident. Your brain never stops learning. Here's one more incredible fact. Your brain continues learning, even when you're not actively studying. After you listen to English, your brain keeps organizing that information. It strengthens useful connections. It compares new ideas with old ones. It builds stronger memories. That's why consistency is so much more effective than perfection. You don't need to study for hours every day. You simply need to give your brain regular opportunities to learn. 15 or 20 minutes every day can produce amazing results over time. Think of learning English as planting a tree. You don't see it grow overnight. But if you water it every day, one morning you'll notice it's much taller than before. Learning works exactly the same way. Progress is often invisible, until one day, you suddenly realize you understand more. You speak more naturally, and you feel more confident than ever before. Build daily habits that change your brain. Now that you understand how your brain learns, let's talk about what you can do every single day to make real progress. The secret isn't studying harder. The secret is creating simple habits that your brain can repeat consistently. Remember, your brain loves repetition. It loves patterns, and it loves consistency. That's why even 15 or 20 minutes of focused practice every day can be more effective than studying for several hours only once a week. Start your day by listening to a few minutes of English. Read something interesting. Learn a useful expression. Listen to a short conversation. Repeat what you hear. Speak out loud. Don't worry if your pronunciation isn't perfect. Every sentence you say is another opportunity for your brain to grow stronger. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is progress. Start thinking in English. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is thinking in English. You don't need difficult vocabulary. You don't need long sentences. Start with simple thoughts. Look around you. Describe what you see. I'm sitting in my room. The weather is beautiful today. I'm drinking a cup of coffee. I need to answer some emails. These simple thoughts train your brain to connect ideas directly with English. Little by little, your mind becomes faster. You stop depending on translation, and speaking becomes much more natural. Remember, fluency doesn't happen in a single day. It grows one thought at a time. Trust the process. There will be days when learning feels easy. There will also be days when it feels difficult. That's completely normal. Progress is never a straight line. Sometimes you'll feel like you're improving very quickly. Other times, it may seem as if nothing is happening. But don't let those moments discourage you. Your brain is still learning. Every podcast you listen to, every page you read, every conversation you have, every mistake you make, and every new word you hear is becoming part of your learning journey. Even when you can't see the progress, your brain is quietly building stronger and stronger connections. That's how real fluency develops. A challenge for you. Before we finish today's episode, I'd like to give you a simple challenge. For the next 7 days, spend at least 20 minutes with English every single day. Listen carefully. Read something you enjoy. Learn a few useful expressions. Repeat them aloud. Think in English whenever you can. Don't focus on being perfect. Focus on being consistent. At the end of those 7 days, ask yourself one question. Do I feel a little more confident than I did a week ago? If the answer is yes, keep going. Because confidence grows through action, not through waiting. Final thoughts. Today, we've discovered that learning English is much more than memorizing vocabulary or studying grammar. We've learned that your brain is constantly adapting. It's creating new neural connections. It's recognizing patterns. And it's becoming stronger every time you use English. So never tell yourself, I'm too old. I'm not talented. I have a bad memory. Because none of those beliefs define your future. Your daily habits do. Every small step matters. Every minute of practice matters. Every attempt matters. Keep listening. Keep reading. Keep speaking. Keep making mistakes. And most importantly, keep believing in yourself. One day you'll look back and realize that everything you once thought was difficult has become natural. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope this episode has inspired you to learn English in a smarter and more enjoyable way. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to follow the channel and join me in the next episode. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep practicing your English every single day.